Seniors, your service hours are due at the end of the day today, and you need to turn them into your school counselor. There will be a meeting for girls who are interested in playing golf in room 230 after school. Juniors and seniors, if you're looking for a great opportunity to find a job, on the 17th here at PHS at 12:30, there will be a local meet and greet with all the businesses here in town. Use this opportunity so you can get employed this summer.
Congratulations to our Piqua senior athletes of the spring season. In March, we have Camilla Nicholas and Jesse Furman.
Another congratulations to the spring athletes of the month of April, Madison Bullen and Mason Osborne. Good job, guys.
And lastly, congratulations to our May senior athletes of the month, Elise Cox and Brandon Offenbacher. Bye! What is that face?
On this week's episode of That Happened Here, we're talking about the Dilbone Massacre, which happened just about a mile away from the Piqua High School on Route 36. Henry and Barbara Dilbone were farmers that moved from Pennsylvania to the Miami Valley in 1806. They owned 160 acres of farmland, and this story takes place on their farm. On August 18, 1813, Henry and Barbara were out working in their flax fields when one of their daughters, Margaret, went back to their cabin to get a drink of water. Henry and Barbara had 4 children: John, 7 years old; Margaret, 5 years old; Priscilla, 3 years old; and William, only 9 months old. While Margaret was gone, the family dog started barking at the woods. Mr. Dilbone looked to see if he could see what the dog was barking at, and saw 2 Indians right on the edge of the woods. Before he could react, one of the Indians shot him in the chest. Barbara immediately recognized the Indian as Mingo George, who was known for being drunk and causing problems. After he had been shot, Henry ran into a cornfield to take cover, which meant that Mingo George had a different target. Margaret ran to protect her children, and while doing so, was begging Mingo George not to kill her husband. Before Margaret could make it over to her children, Mingo George struck her down with a tomahawk. Then, in front of her children, he scalped her. After he had completed scalping Barbara, he turned towards the children and stared at them. He stayed that way for several minutes until he heard a gunshot to the south. Thinking that might be backup, he decided he should probably get going and left, walking north. Terrified, John took his younger siblings back to the house as quick as he could. There, he found Margaret and told her what had happened. Together, all 4 children climbed into their parents' bed and hid. Sometime later, a neighbor lady was coming by to say hi to the Dilbones, but couldn't find anyone. She let herself inside the house to see if anybody was in there. There, she discovered the children in their parents' bed. When she saw the children, she asked them, "What are you doing in your parents' bed this late in the day?" John responded that their parents were killed and that they didn't know what to do. The neighbor lady, fearing for her own children's safety, ran back to her house, gathered up her kids, and took them to the Winans train station. A second neighbor, Mr. McKinney, had heard the gunshots and decided to come over to make sure everything was okay. He too found the children in their bed and asked them why they were there. They gave him the same answer about their parents being killed, but he didn't believe them. John led Mr. McKinney out to the site of his parents' death, where the gun and hatchet were still laying from where Mingo George had dropped them. There, he saw Barbara's dead body and realized the kids were telling the truth. Mr. McKinney hurried the children back to his house, where other settlers had gathered in fear of similar Indian attacks. From Mr. McKinney's house, everybody went to the Winans train station for safety. The people responsible for watching after William, the youngest child, got separated from the rest of the group. They hid under a fallen tree till morning, then finally made their way to the train station. Later that same morning, a scouting party was put together and went back to the Dilbones to try and find Henry. The scouting party got to the site of the massacre and was looking around when they heard a cry from a nearby cornfield. The party searched the cornfield and found Henry, who had used a cloth to stop the bleeding from his gunshot wound. As quickly and carefully as they could, the party rushed him to a neighbor's blockhouse to try and save his life. While they were tending to him, he asked about the safety of his family, not realizing his wife was dead. After they had explained what had happened to his wife, he was distraught and asked to see her remains. A few men from the party brought back Barbara's body, and upon seeing it, Henry fell back and died. Gardiner Bobo, a friend of the Dilbones and a captain from the Revolutionary War, and William Richardson, Barbara's brother-in-law, decided to look for Mingo George. He had continued going north and was seen near the Miami County-Shelby County line. Bobo and Richardson hid in wait of Mingo George near the river by the county line. When Mingo George finally came by around dusk, Bobo and Richardson did not wait to shoot him. After he was dead, they used a long pole to punch his body into a quagmire near the river. After this, the children were raised by their neighbors. Priscilla ended up dying at 13, Margaret married a local man and lived nearby, John lived to a very old age, eventually taking over most of the family farm again, and William ended up moving to modern-day Shelby County and also becoming a farmer. I actually had the privilege of talking to Mitch and Laverna Dilbone, who are descendants of the Dilbone family. Mitch's great-great-grandfather was William Dilbone, the youngest of the Dilbone children. This is a picture of some of Mitch's family. Pictured in the lower right is David Benjamin Dilbone, who is Mitch's great-grandfather and William's son. Also pictured in the upper left is Marion Clyde Dilbone, who is Mitch's grandfather. Originally, when the Dilbones came from Germany to America, their last name actually wasn't Dilbone. The first immigrant, named John Tillman Bond, had a thick German accent that was difficult to understand, so they took his last name as Dilbone. Later on, it was changed to Dilbone, which is what it remains today. Mitch's son, the great-great-great-grandson of William Dilbone, is the principal of Troy High School.
His wife and build a home. Henry believed if he applied his trade and worked the land, they could be successful on their own. In 1806 they left their Pennsylvania stead and headed to Ohio countryside. 160-acre plot of land is where the Dilbone family would reside. The years were hard, but God had blessed their home, and they added 4 children unto the family name. They were friendly with the neighbor Shawnee Indians, and they often traded bread for wild game. Along the banks of the Spring Creek, they worked their flax fields throughout the day. And every night as Barbara tucked her children in, she would bow her head, give thanks and pray. asked if he could see his darling wife. Upon learning that she died, Henry rolled over as he cried, took one last breath and gave up on this life. Vengeful neighbors hunted Mingo George, and they shot him full of bullets till he died. They punched his body into the muddy banks until he sunk in